So orders is where we will probably be spending a lot of our time for day-to-day business. This is where we can process what we've got coming. We can do everything here from collect monies that are due on orders, begin preliminary logistics for planning, and then get right into full planning and full routing. So I guess I'll just go in order of appearance on what some of this stuff does. So up top here, we've got an overall list of orders. After that, we've got some simple filters that we can filter all of our orders by. And this may or may not be useful depending on how we are or aren't using the software. Pending orders, all orders that come in off of the website and have a deposit paid or no deposit if we're not requiring a deposit will come in as a pending order. The idea being the customer has gone to the website, they've selected what they want, and they've checked out with it, so they are considered they consider the booking confirmed. And so all we need to do is whatever our logistics are, collect our balances and work forward until event day, and then obviously show up with the requested equipment and get it set up for their event. Quote page, any invoices or any quotes that we're working, oftentimes with larger entities, businesses like quoting processes, your school fairs are probably going to go through a quoting process, so on and so forth. We can quickly filter by quotes, see any and all quotes that we have out, and process those as need be. We might want to follow up and make sure that the corresponding person on the other end got it. Make sure that they've passed it along up the food chain in their organization, and see if there's anything we can help, to work towards approval and turning that into a pending gig. But again, quotes, that's our quote page. We can quickly filter, look at all our quotes that we have out. For all of our orders, we can set them in terms of finalizing or closing them out as either canceled or completed. So obviously, if somebody booked, paid their balance, we showed up and delivered their equipment, they had fun at their event, we showed back up and picked up our equipment, that would be a completed order. We completed everything for that booking, and we would put that in our completed bucket, and we can look at our completed bucket if for any reason we need to look at previous orders. Maybe a customer called back and asked what they got last time. We can come in here and find their order and look. We do have other ways to look up previous orders, which we'll look at on the client's page. But anyways, we could do it here from the completed list as well. Conversely, we might accidentally mark one as complete that isn't complete. So we could come over here and go right back in and set it back to pending or quote or whatever status it should be set to if that happens. Same thing with canceled. If somebody canceled before the date of their event, we can set that invoice or that booking to canceled. It will go in the canceled bucket. It will no longer be considered pending. The system won't sort of bug us to complete that order or to make sure that we work that order. But again, we might want to look at our canceled orders, see if we can call those customers back, see if we can get them, back online, right? So we might want to see if there's anything we can do to salvage that booking. So if we wanted to look at any or all canceled bookings, we can do so quickly. Again, same thing with completed. If we put one here by accident as well, we can hop back in and we could set it back to pending or quote, depending on what it should be, and it will go back into those buckets. So we'll go back over to pending. We can also filter by unpaid orders. If there's monies due and we just want to see what monies are due, we can filter by that, and that way we can start to process payments and get collecting on balances that are due. We could also just filter by new orders if we just wanted to see new stuff that we hadn't done anything with. So we could just see what was new, say, overnight or this week, so on and so forth. We can also get an add-a-week glance or an add-a-month glance. If we just want to see this week or this month in terms of business, we can filter by that. So up here, we've got some more filters, lots of filters, right? It's important to be able to filter all of our bookings so that we can look at what makes sense to look at for whatever work we're doing today. Again, we might be collecting balances, we might be getting ready to stage the warehouse for deliveries or anything in between, and we might want to filter in any way that makes sense. So we can filter by delivery or pickup if we're offering pickup. Many of our customers don't offer pickup, so for lots of customers, delivery is always going to be what our orders come in saying. But we do have the occasional customer that will allow pickup for smaller items, tables, chairs, things like that. And if you are offering pickups, we can filter just by orders that are expected to be a pickup. And again, then we know orders that we need to meet at the front door as opposed to going and meeting them at their front door. So we can filter by pickup or delivery if that's useful to us. We can filter by online orders or manual orders. If we've got orders that we put in manually from phone calls or direct contact with customers, we can look at those, just those, if that's helpful, or we can look at just orders that came in off of the website, if that's helpful. So status is customizable. You'll see there's an add new button down here. So the system is going to come stock with confirmed or rain check. So we may get an order come in off of the website. We may do whatever steps we do to confirm that order, call the customer or email the customer or text the customer, any information that we typically do after they sign up, and if they respond or if they answer the phone or if they interact in any way, and yes, we want that booking, then we could set it to confirmed, and then we would be able to filter by all the orders that we set as confirmed. We may have a customer call and cancel or say that Uncle Sam can't make it this weekend. We're going to have to move the party till next weekend or the weekend after. So we may set them as rain check, hold their deposit, and hold their order until they're ready to do it. So we could filter by rain checks if we wanted to follow up with those people, see if we can move them forward or if they've found a date for their event yet. But we can add new. This is fully customizable, so we can call it anything we want. And that would be the name of that status, and we can give it a color to help us, visually understand what that status means. So if custom statuses would be useful for our processes, then we can easily create them, assign them to each job or each order, and then we could filter by those statuses. So the last little couple buttons down here, we can filter by date range. So if we weren't able to filter using any of the preset buttons and look at exactly what we wanted to look at, we can just filter by a date range, whether it be today, this week, everything upcoming. We can look at previous work yesterday or last week, or we can just do a custom range, whether we wanted to look at multiple days or one day. We can set a custom range, and that would show us only orders that fall within that range. So if I just wanted to look at business for the 31st, I can set it as just the 31st and hit select, and then I'm just going to be looking at business for the 31st. Again, going back to the dashboard, because we do have those orders on the 31st, if we quickly wanted to look at the 31st, our quickest way to do so would be from the dashboard. We would hit that arrow button I was talking about before. We would hit that View All Events button, and that would bring us right back here to the Orders tab, filtered on the 31st, and just looking at the orders for the 31st. So that's probably going to be fairly common practice for just about everybody using the software. They're going to want to process logistics for a given day. What needs to be delivered on that day. So that's a very quick way to look at what needs to be set up and ready for events on that day. The last thing we can do from here is add manual order. We'll do that. I guess we'll just build an order together. Why not? We'll go ahead and build one together as part of the demonstration here. So we click add manual, and this allows us to start creating a manual order. If a customer calls in and wants to put an order together over the phone, we would quickly hop into the software, click that add manual order button, and start taking information from them. If they're a repeat customer, they're already going to be in our list of customers over in our CRM. So we would be able to click this little up-down arrow right here and get a list of all the customers in our CRM. And we can click the customer that we're talking to if they're a repeat. If they are not a repeat customer, we can click the Create New Client button here, and that will walk us through setting up a new client in the CRM. Give it a name, give it a last name, give it an email address. If they're a company, we can put the company name. We've got 2 spots for phone numbers, so if we can and need to collect 2 phone numbers, we do. We've got a custom category system as part of our customer pages. We'll go through that in more detail when we get to the customer pages, but a little sneak peek, we've got custom categories that can help us segment our audience, and so that we can filter our customers based on various categories that might be useful to us. The last thing we need to know is an address. That's typically where they're going to be holding their event. And then we can also set a customer to tax exempt if that's useful. We may have schools or churches that are tax exempt. And once we've gotten the proper documentation to prove that they don't need to pay taxes, we can set them to tax exempt. And then any future orders that we do with that customer, the system will already know that they are tax exempt. But for today's purposes, we will use an existing customer, because why wouldn't we? So we will set it under myself here. We'll use that one, I guess. Test event number 22 for some kind of keeping. We'll go ahead and set it on the 31st because we have some other bookings on the 31st, and it'll be useful to overbook that day so that we can look at the router a little bit better. One thing I will do real quick on here is grab an address in Michigan because I've still got that set to Michigan. The system will respect our service radius if we're using one. And therefore, if we're using a service radius, the system won't allow people to order outside of that service radius. So if we've got, our service radius set to 20 or 50 miles around Gaylord in Michigan, then somebody trying to order from Kansas City, where I'm at, is not going to be able to submit an order unless they know an address in the area. Just a way of sort of limiting, goofballs going on and trying to put orders in for whatever reasons that aren't valid. Or even people from just outside of our service area trying to order and we don't service their areas. The system won't let them. If we've got an apartment number or suite, we can note that here. Again, the system will ask if we want delivery or pickup. If we're offering only delivery, great. We just keep delivery selected. But if we are offering pickup, we can note that here while we're creating this manual order. On the front side, for the customer checking out on the website, they're only going to see the option for pickup and delivery if we activate that option. And of course, if we don't offer any items for pickup, we won't have that active, so our customers won't be able to assume or request that they pick up their equipment. The system will ask these next two questions to the customer at checkout as well as here for manual orders. So what surface type are they setting up on? Is it a grass party? Is it indoor party? Is it on concrete? Is it on carpet? So on and so forth. So the customer can tell us what their event area looks like. And we can use that information however we do. If we limit what types of surfaces are allowed for our equipment to be set up on, then we will know our customer is requesting a setup surface that we don't allow. And of course, if they're using one we don't mind, we already know. Out of the gate, many customers and most of our bounce house companies, if it's sort of grass type setup, we're going to be bringing stakes to make sure that that bounce house doesn't flop over or blow in the wind. Whereas if we're set up on something like concrete or asphalt, we're going to be bringing sandbags. So again, this selection here will let us know a little bit about what needs to be brought to successfully set up that unit. And then again, the system will ask the customer how they found us. So if we're taking an order over the phone, we might just ask the customer that exact question. How'd you hear about us? How'd you find us? And of course, they'll tell us, oh, we saw you on Facebook, or we heard, we looked on Google and we found you there. So we can tell the system how they said they found us. So that'll add into that analytical data on the homepage there, on the dashboard. If it was a customer calling that was requesting a quote environment, they didn't want sort of to pay a deposit today. They need to get a quote so they can show it to the boss or the principal or the event organizer or whatever their processes are for getting their event put together. We can make it a quote right away, and that way it will be in quote status. We will be able to add all the items we want to add to the event and then send that quote over to the organization so that they can review and get their approval from, again, whatever their process is in-house. Last thing would be any additional questions we have as part of checkout. So if we have questions that we expect people to answer when they're checking out on the website, those questions will be asked here during a manual checkout as well, or a manual order creation. So in this case, I have a damage waiver. Did you want a damage waiver to make sure if you do any damage to our equipment, we're not going to complain? We've got, some coverage. So we can say yes or no there. But again, we can have all kinds of questions set up as part of checkout. So if there are specific questions that are important to your needs, we can build those out, and those would be here as well as at checkout for the customer that is using the website. So we've gone through our order form here to create our simple order. We've got all the information that we need to collect, so we can just hit add order, and this will add this order as an invoice. And here we are inside of our order or our invoice page or our booking page, whatever we want to call it. And we can do a lot of different things from here. Since we're creating a manual order, we'll just stay in that train of thought, and we'll get to some of the other features here after we complete our manual order. So again, in scenario, we're on the phone with the customer. We've just gathered all the introductory information to build their order, and the system has created us an order here. So we know we've put in the name of the order, we've put in the address for the order, we've got the start and end date for the order. If it was a multi-day order, that would be multiple days here. If it's a one-day order, it would be like this, 1 day. And then we've got the billing information as well that we collected. So we haven't billed anything yet in this scenario. In fact, we still haven't added items, so that's the next step we would want to do while we've got the customer on the phone, is start asking them what they would like to have at their event. So once they start telling us, we can click Add Products. That will now give us an interface down here to start adding our products. You can see all of our active categories will be listed over here, and we can start adding whatever the customer would like. So they might like a birthday cake bouncer, or a Justice League bouncer, or Mickey Friends bouncer, or whatever bouncer they're interested in. You'll notice here, if any equipment is rented for the day that we're putting this together, the system will let us know the modular bouncer is not available on their day. So we'll want to keep that in mind as customers are telling us what they want. We'll want to try to quickly bounce between our categories and look for the thing they want and see if it's available for the day that they're requesting. If it's not, we'll obviously want to offer a different piece of equipment that might match up with their needs. For our use case today, we'll go ahead and say that the customer would like a Mickey and Friends bouncer. So I'm going to go ahead and add in a Mickey and Friends bouncer. And so it will bring us to the next step. Tell us a little bit of the information we have on the bouncer here. If the customer asks the price, it will certainly remind us. If it's an item we have more than one of, it will tell us how many we have in our stock, and that stock is an active count for what's available for the day. So if it's something like tables and chairs and we've got 50 of them total in stock, but 25 are already on booking for an event somewhere across town, then we will only see, the 25 that are left available to put onto this order. In this case, one Mickey and Friends bouncer will do just fine, so we'll go ahead and add that to the order. The system will then ask us, is that all we want to add to the order, or do we want to add more stuff? So if the customer just says the bouncer will do, we can go back to the invoice and the bouncer will do. If the customer says, no, we'd like to grab some tables and chairs and a canopy and a concession machine and so on and so forth, we can say, no, we want to add more stuff, and we're brought right back to here and we can start looking through. Maybe the customer would like to get a snow cone machine. And this is a good example of a machine that has options. So this is a snow cone machine. The setup or idea with our demo snow cone machine is here for $60. They get their choice of one flavor that is going to be, I believe we've set it to 50 servings. Again, that's arguable, whatever your serving count for your typical concession machine is. We will set that up when we build the product. But as we add it manually to an order here, we're going to get the same questions it'll ask the customer if they're using the website to add it to an order. So first, to pick our included flavor, so we can pick whatever flavor is included or whatever flavor the customer says they would like to have included with their order. If the customer is having a larger event and they want extra servings, we can build a system where there can be extra servings on offer. If those extra servings should cost extra money, we can build it so that they charge extra money. If they're included for the price, we just want to know if they need it, then we can build it out so it doesn't charge any extra for that option. We just know that they want two servings of the blue raspberry, or a serving of the blue raspberry and the blue cherry, or so on and so forth, whatever's going to make our customer's event perfect. And then we can go ahead and add that to order. Since we talked about it, we might as well take a look. So, tables and chairs, we might want to have a table ordered. So again, active stock will show if we have X amount in stock, a number of those are already rented today, then we'll only see available what's available, and we can tell the system how many our current customer would like. We can add that to the order. Nobody rents tables without chairs, so we would probably add some chairs. I think we're going to need 6 or 8 chairs for one standard table, so we'll go ahead and get 8 chairs added to there. And I think that's enough items. We'll go ahead and go back to the invoice now. And as you see, everything we've been building out has been building out here in our itemized view. Uh, so it'll start calculating anything that's relevant. So obviously tax, most folks are going to be charging tax because they're required to by Uncle Sam. So whatever our tax rate that we are required to pay, we'll set in the system, and the system will already automatically calculate that into our order. So it'll show us our subtotal, basically the addition of all of our items, and then it'll show us what our tax charge is, and then our grand total. If we were setting a delivery fee charge in the system, then that would be noted here as well. I don't have a delivery fee set up, and I also used the address that we have set as the warehouse. So even if there was a delivery fee set up, it would say 0 because we are having the party at the office, if you will. All right, so we've now got our order. We've got our list of items. Ms. Smith is going to be more than happy. We've got everything she wants in stock, and we're going to be able to put that order together for her. So we can go back to the top now, and we can talk about some of the stuff we can do once an order is complete. So if a customer had come into the website and built this order, using the website, they would have gone through the process of going through our categories, finding what they're interested in, adding all that they're interested in to their cart, and then checking out. And during checkout, they would have been prompted to either pay a deposit if we have a deposit set up for our checkout process, or they will be asked if they would like to pay in full. If we have no deposit set up, it will just ask them to pay in full to checkout. And again, if we have a deposit set up, it can either be a fixed number that we ask for our deposits, or it can be a percentage of whatever the order is. And if the customer had checked out through the website, again, they would have been presented with that option. They would have paid their deposit or in full. And that would have shown up here in our payment receipt section. Payment information is what they call it. So I'm going to add a manual payment. And this is something you can do anytime you're using the software. We've got quite a few customers that will accept cash on delivery if customers would like to do that, or will accept some other forms of payment besides just a credit card link through the website. Some folks are using Venmo or Cash App or some of those other fancy nifty apps that people use to transfer money back and forth and pay for things. And so if you're collecting money in any of those alternative methods, whether it be, again, Cash Apps or things like that, or just taking cash or check on delivery, we can manually add payments to any order to help justify our balance. So in this use case, we can say that we're going to collect some money for our deposit, mostly so I can see a line item so that we can see what that looks like. So I'm just going to put a $100 payment in on this order, which is a total balance of $372.60. I'll go ahead and submit, and that will add a line item into our receipt here. So now it shows we collected cash for $100, and it's adjusted our remaining balance down to $272.60. Again, if that was done at time of checkout on the website, that would say web portal payment, and that would show us whatever the deposit or the full amount if the customer decided to pay the full amount at time of checkout. For manual payments that we might add with the add button, we can delete them if we did something by error. We might have flubbed our fingers and typed the wrong number, and we need to delete that and record the proper amount of money that we've collected. We can delete them and edit this receipt as needed. Another reason I wanted to get a payment in there was so that we could take a look at the invoice history. So for all of our orders, each order keeps a history of what happens on that order. So when the order comes in, if it's a manual order, you can see down here, it will say manual order. If it was an order that came off of the website, it would say order from the website. If we adjust that order after time of creation, it will log everything that we do to that order. So for use case for a customer that might have ordered from the website and then called us after they submitted their order and paid their deposit and checked out, they may call us and say, oh my gosh, we forgot to get a concession, or we forgot to get tables and chairs, or we wanted to get a canopy, or we wanted to get another piece of your equipment. And we can manually add that to the order at any time. You'll notice that add product button didn't go away when we finished adding products. So we can certainly add more if a customer calls back and says they would like to add to the order. We can also delete them, obviously. We can edit any of these line items. We can discount if we're going to work a discount for our customer. We can remove the product if the customer says they didn't want that product on their order. We can add notes or actually edit the product listing in our product section of the software right from here as well, if that was useful to us. And the system will keep track of all those modifications to the order in the history over here. So it's just useful for us to look and see what's been happening on an order. Maybe a customer calls in and again wants to investigate what's going on or what's in their order. So we have all the items that are active in the order, and the customer might say, well, I was sure I added the tent, table and chairs onto the order, and we say, well, we don't see it here. And we could look in the history and make sure that nobody, on our end manually adjusted this and removed something or anything to that effect. So the history just helps us, keep honest and remember what's been happening on these orders as we approach event date. Okay, so now for some of the fun stuff, some things that we would do logistically and in terms of prepping for this order. So we can apply a discount over here in the receipt section to the entirety of the balance. If for some reason we're offering a discount to the customer, that's something we can do. If the customer's called in with a new form of payment that they would like to add and use, we can add a new card onto file. So again, they may have checked out with one card on the website and they want to call and add a different card for the rest of the balance, or in the case of where we were in our scenario on a phone order that we're manually inputting, we need to get a card. So we can add their credit card onto file so that we can charge them. We can set our statuses from here. We kind of went over that on the main page, but we can do it from inside the order sheet as well. So confirmed or rate check, or if we've added any custom ones, they would be here in this drop down as well. We can also change our status as a whole, or from pending to completed to canceled or to quote, if we needed to convert this to any of those statuses. So if we need to edit information on the invoice, there's an edit button here. So again, kind of standard fare. We need to edit something. We wanted to change the address. We needed to adjust the dates. The customer called and said they'd like to keep it for day number 2 instead. And so we can do all of that with the edit button. That will bring us back to the screen where we edit all of that information. So we've got a delivery sheet that we can print for each of our orders. The delivery sheet is going to be a condensed version of the order. The delivery driver will still have access to some information that they might need while they're out and about on their route. For communications with the office, they can quickly say what invoice number they're working on or driving towards, or that they've arrived at, and that way they can the office can reference the invoice, and any special information that they might need, they can quickly get into that invoice and look for. Most of the information the driver is going to need will be here, but use by use, case by case, driver might need to call in and see if there's any special instructions for delivery or anything else that might have been put into the system. And again, quick reference of the invoice number so that office can figure out which order we're talking about. Main information about where the event is and what the event is, so the delivery driver knows where they're going. Delivery driver knows the start and end time for the party. If it is our practice to be set up before start time and we pick up as quickly after end time as we can, then the driver knows he's dropping this off before 10 and he's picking it up after 4, and that would complete delivery and pickup all within the day. And the customer will know a little bit about, or the driver can know a little bit about the customer as well. The driver, it might be our practice to have them call when they're on their way to the delivery and say they're going to be there in 10 or 15 minutes. So they have access to the phone number or the email address. If it's our practice to have them shoot a quick email, they can do so from there. And then they get their actual order information, what needs to go to that event. Any special information will be noted for the driver as well. So any special questions that were asked as checkout are listed here on the order sheet. Any special information that goes with the units will be listed as well. You can see the selections on extra servings are listed for the snow cone machine. We can build out a packing list for each of our items as well. And if we did build one out, it would be listed down below, similar to these options here. So we might list out what blower goes with this unit. We might list out as a reminder that this unit needs to have a 50-foot extension cord brought with it. It needs to have a tarp brought with it that goes underneath it. Might be a specific size tarp from our collection that needs to be grabbed. It might be any other information, stakes, sandbags, anything else that's useful for setup or required for setup can be listed there. And then our delivery drivers can't say they didn't know they were supposed to grab that because it will be listed out. Also, quantities are listed. So in the case of things like tables and chairs, if there's multiples on order, it will let the drivers know how many they should grab. So they should grab 8 of the folding chairs in this scenario, so on and so forth. I like to say to people that it would be a good practice to print each delivery sheet out for each order for a day's route. And I would train the drivers to take these delivery sheets after they've set up the equipment for the event, find the customer, and get a signature from the customer approving the setup. This is going to limit chargeback and other nonsense because we're going to ask the customer, is that good? And if the customer says yes, please sign here, and the customer is indicating we've done a good job setting up. I like to say it wouldn't be a bad idea to have 2 of these printed out, and when we go to pick up, after we pick all our equipment up and get it out of their yard, we find the customer once again, and we get them to approve the state that we're leaving their yard in after we're done with the event. So that's just good protection, good practice that would help us protect against chargebacks and customers trying to blame us because they woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning. Of course, that's assuming we're doing a good job, and we better be doing a good job. So, okay, that's delivery sheets. We can get a daily delivery sheet as well. So on that note, we'll just pop back out to the dashboard. We'll just quickly sort the day of the 31st again in our events. And I believe it's this print button here. We can print this button, and it's basically a dispatch list. It's going to give us a printable list of those 3 orders that are on that day, with a list of all the equipment that are on those orders. And we can consider this a packing list for the truck. Assuming one truck is going to be handling all of the orders that we're looking at, we can quickly sort of print this out, and the driver knows exactly everything he needs to stage in the warehouse to be packed into the truck. So we will quickly go back into our event that we were looking at. We've also got a PDF button. If we want to save our orders on file on our system, we can have it save a PDF file for us. We can put that into a folder on our computer or toss that onto the cloud somewhere, and we can keep a copy of the order for our records. We could also print it out of the printer if we want to put it in our filing cabinet, or if we've got some physical means that we use to store all of our previous work. And the last, probably most important tool on the order screen here is our email button. I guess that is the most important, but it's not the last. I forgot our internal memo system. We can leave notes on each order. A customer may call with delivery information or other information that would be useful to both, internal staff as well as the drivers, and we can create notes that will save within the order screen if we create them. And so that, again, will just give us any notes, any information that might be useful to hang on to the ticket here. We can hang it onto the work ticket that might be useful. So our email screen, I will give a caveat, and this is useful for you and Abby and Brian. This screen is going to be changing a little bit, Mr. Juan. We're going to be having a more dedicated section for collecting our money coming. Okay. So right now, the way this works is back in the setting systems, we can create templates. And these templates will be over here on the left-hand side. I believe this overall email sender is staying. What's changing is our payment link system, and I'll get into that as we get towards that part. But we're going to create templates ahead of time that will allow us to quickly click a template, and that template goes into the body of our email. So we could have templates that have our terms and conditions of service. We might have templates that have any rules or instructions that are useful for our rentals. And we may have templates for other purposes, templates that say, hey, we hope we did a good job for you, or hey, your event's coming up in a couple of days, your invoice is due, or so on and so forth. We can have as many templates as we want, And as we build out those templates, again, it's as simple as clicking them. That template will go into the body over here of our email. We may have templates that have little placeholders, right? So we would know that every time we plop that template in, we're going to replace customer name with the actual customer's name so that we're greeting them directly if that's something we'd like to do. Again, when we get into full setup with customers, we can go over some neat ways that they can use these templates to really seem professional in a very fast manner. We can quickly come in and communicate with our customer because we already know we've got a template that says what we want to say, and all we got to do is address it to whoever it's going to. So for the time being, until Mr. Walter has the new, I forget what he's calling it, payment center or something like that set up, we would definitely have a template that says, you know, hey, thanks for booking with us. You know, we request that your deposit be paid no less than 7 days before event day, or whatever our policy is. We would have all that into a template. We would click that template and we would include this little pay link down here, and that would go ahead and send them a link that they can use to pay through our payment processor, whether it be PayPal, whether it be Stripe, whether it be Auth.net. Caveat. Auth.net doesn't work with this yet. Auth.net will work at the front side for the checkout. The customer will pay using our Auth.net portal for their deposit. But until Mr. Walter has time to finish full integration with Auth.net, if we're using that as a payment processor for our balances, we would go over to the Auth.net dashboard and we would put an invoice together over there with the balance due and send that to the customer through the Auth.net portal. But full integration is coming at some point, just not today. You'll hear me say that a couple of times as we go through, because there are a few places that are under active development, and we'll be having some changes in the forthcoming weeks and months. So that's in Payment Link. The system also grabs e-signatures. Every time somebody checks out through the website, the system is going to ask them to sign for their order, more or less getting their approval for the things that they've added to the cart and giving us some form of signatures that says, yes, I want to have this event. I understand it costs me money, and I understand you're going to be bringing out, you know, X equipment to my house, such and such equipment. This is beta. Mr. Walter added this recently. I don't know entirely. Order review link, I am assuming that it's going to send a review of their order. Whenever I've clicked it, actually, it shows me a link. Let's investigate together. If it works, no, does it? No, it's not copying anything. So again, I don't know entirely what the intention is here. Mr. Walters added this recently. My assumption is that it's a summary, it's a review. So my assumption is it's going to show all the items that are on the order and any payment history that's on the order and kind of send that as available to the customer. But it's still in beta mode, so I don't think it's fully implemented or working. And it may just be that whatever functionality was going to be here will eventually be on that payment processing screen when he gets that finished. So that brings me to sort of this idea that we were talking about here with the payment link. So if a customer has come onto the website and they've added their stuff to their cart and they've checked out and they've paid their deposit, whatever our deposit rules are, to create the order, then when we send the pay link, it's going to ask for the balance due minus the deposit they've already paid. But for the scenario like what we're working on, where we submitted a manual order, this is just going to send a payment link for the balance. There is no deposit link currently in the system. Mr. Walter, as I say, is working on that. I am hoping a couple of weeks for that, because honestly, that's really big, right? We're going to get a number of orders that we're going to take over the phone. And there's no reason those people shouldn't be allowed to pay a deposit and pay the rest in a week or two like everybody else. So that is forthcoming, but for the time being, if we use this system to send a payment link, it will be for whatever the balance is, whether it's the total of the order or it's an online order and a deposit has already been paid. So the workaround I've been guiding people on for the time being until we get that new screen. If a customer would like to pay the deposit and they are ordering over the phone and we can't get them to go check out through the website so that they just get their deposit button, we would go over to our payment processor portal and formulate a invoice there with whatever number would equate to our balance for that customer. And then we will record that payment once they use the link and pay through either our auth.net, our PayPal, or our Stripe portal. We would come in here and record that as cash on hand. Customer paid through an external service. We've confirmed and received the funds, so we would tell the system how much funds we collected using that manual add button. As I say, that's a temporary fix. We will have a more dedicated system where we can send either a deposit link or a payment link for the balance very shortly, just not today.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so that is our email sender. That is our order screen. That is more or less everything we can do from our order screen. I guess as a caveat, since our demo account doesn't have certain things set up that we should probably get, I need to get built in there, but if we have a terms and conditions built in that is going to be sent to our customer as part of their thank you and confirmation for booking, all that information would be listed on each order so that we can, basically know that we've already messaged that to the customer. And I kind of mentioned it up here with any order additional questions at checkout. But if we have the system sending anything else, policies, rules, instructions after the time of booking, any of those send-outs would be listed here as well. Again, letting us know that that information was sent to this client and reminding us what we said. So that's just a caveat about another thing the system will keep track of if we have those things set up in our account.